So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to RIA's Unlocking conference, which should have been a physical event, and it should have been taking place in Leeds as part of the Leeds Digital Festival. Unfortunately, circumstances mean that can't happen. So we're doing it as a series of 1 hour webinars this week, one each day, 2 till 3 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 10 to 11 on Friday morning. And in a little bit, we'll talk about the topics that we're going to cover during the week. Okay, Milda, do you want to give me my slide set, please, Milda? So welcome to everybody, and a program today. I'm going to be joined by Karl Butler-Garnham, and then 3 SMEs that are actually building successful businesses in rail to show you, those of you who are new to rail, and today is very much about those of you who are new, show you how successful businesses can be built. So I work for the Railway Industry Association, which during the event we'll call RIA. And my name is Richard Jones. I work in the technical and innovation team, which is just one of the functional areas of RIA. Okay, I have great, fantastic. So we're going to look at a couple of issues here. Railways, they're just a means of transport, aren't they? Well, actually, we're going to show you they're quite a bit more than that. We're going to talk about what RIA is and our involvement in the industry. What this unlocking innovation thing is about. We're going to look at why digitalisation and data offers an exceptional opportunity for innovation in the industry. It's brought about by the structure of the industry and the structure, actually, the way in which the industry is operated as well. We're going to look at how data enables us to get out of our silos and to actually do some innovation. And then, as I said, we're going to look to the subjects for the rest of the week as well then. So, railways, just a means of transport? Well, actually, they're quite a bit more than that. They are a major transport system, and every day in the UK, about 12 million journeys are made by rail. That's both mainline and underground rail. So normally, under normal circumstances, it's one of the busiest transport modes in the UK. But that's kind of missing an angle here. Railways are also a major industry. Building and maintaining the rail network and everything that goes in it and on it, the power system, the communication system, the control system, the passenger services and the freight, the whole thing is a 600,000 person industry and generates about £36 billion in gross value add each year. So we're talking about an industry here, not just a means of transport, and it's important to understand that about railways. As a user, of course, we only see the transportation bit. We don't really see all the work that goes on behind that to make it happen. And there's some great things about railways, not least of all that we provide travel for passengers at the lowest CO2 per passenger kilometre of any mode. And as we continue to electrify the rail network, we're actually getting greener all the time. So RIA, what is the Railway Industry Association? Well, we're the trade association for the suppliers to the industry. So our members cover the whole rail system, and we often say you can build a complete railway just among the RIA membership. And members build and maintain the infrastructure. They build and maintain the trains, the so-called rolling stock. They build and maintain the signalling and control systems and the communication systems. And those are multiple generations, like many things in rail. We don't have a brand new infrastructure. We have an aged infrastructure mixed with some very new stuff. So you'll find everything from copper to 5G in the rail comms network across the whole thing. And member companies, they cover the whole range from global corporations like Hitachi, Bombardier, Thales, Alstom, and IBM, who's one of our newest members, and they've come to the industry because they can see a future for data in rail. But still, more than 60% of our members are SMEs, and a lot of what we do specifically with SMEs to help them drive their businesses forward. And we do the things that often members can't necessarily do alone, and that's networking, and it's lobbying, dealing with Whitehall and so on. That can be quite difficult, especially for smaller companies. And we effectively aggregate all the requirements of those businesses together, and we go and do that work for them. Unlocking Innovation has been around for a while now. A number of you may perhaps have been to physical events that we've done in the past. They've ranged across the whole of the UK, and most recent ones before this are in Huddersfield and Southampton. So we do move around the UK quite a bit. There's actually more than 10 years that we've been running Unlocking Innovation events. What they're intended to do is a number of things. One is to highlight to suppliers the challenges that we have in our industry. So the ultimate customers, Transport for London, HS2, Network Rail, and so on. We're asking them to come forward and bring forward their challenges to the industry, to suppliers. The events are there to share resources which exist in and around the industry to help suppliers innovate. So there are some very healthy sources of funding available, and also technical help. To give some examples here, funding, well, Innovate UK has a round of competitions. They invest at least typically £40 million a year in rail innovation. Our speaker, Karl Butler-Garnham from Network Rail, is going to tell us about the Network Rail program of research and funded research and development. But we also have one of the best university networks across any industry sector. It's called UKRRIN, and UKRRIN is one of our partners for this event, the UK Rail Research and Innovation Network. And it includes centres of excellence for rolling stock, for infrastructure, and also for data, which is Birmingham University. And we'll be hearing from them later in the week, actually. So there's a chance to catch up with them. So there's a lot of help that's there for SMEs, particularly in the industry. We actually open the floor and we give SMEs the chance to pitch their innovative approaches to the people who need to hear about them. And sometimes customers need to hear what's in the market, what SMEs can do, because they just don't know about it necessarily otherwise. So we're trying to enable that. Under normal conditions, we do two things that are quite hard to do at the moment. One is we'd have a physical exhibition, which is typically SMEs. But sometimes it's funders and people who've got things to help. And also we give a physical space for networking, which is a key function of the events. And although we can't really do that with the tool we've got and in this medium, we will have a Q&A session at the end. And in that Q&A, you will be able to ask questions. And we'll moderate those questions. But also, if you have something that you want to offer the industry or something you want to get from the industry, please say so in your question, and we'll share the question openly onwards with everyone else. In the end, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create new supply chains, and we're trying to refresh the ones that we've already got. So, if I can go back a slide. A little bit of lag on the right. Okay. So we're going to talk very briefly then about the structure of the railway industry or the railway system. The main players are Network Rail, who own and maintain the infrastructure. So it works with suppliers to maintain, enhance and extend the network. And it operates the railway through regional control centres. So it's a reasonably regionally consolidated control system within the railway these days. Used to be more than 850 signal boxes, which I'm sure people will recognise. Those great wooden boxes on stilts and people in there making bacon sandwiches and pulling levers. Those days are behind us now, and we are down to 1 or 2 regional operating centres right throughout the country. It also operates the largest stations, so the big interchanges tend to be operated by Network Rail because of their influence on the way the network works. We have a class of companies in the industry called ROSCOs, rolling stock companies. They own the trains and they lease them to the train operators, the train operating companies, TOCs, who operate the trains and also operate the smaller stations, typically the ones that maybe just 1 or 2 TOCs serve. And they're the main face of the industry, dealing face to face with passengers on trains and at the smaller stations and so on. And then because of the way the industry is cut up, we have to have an economic regulator, the Office of the Rail Regulator, and a safety and standards regulator, the Rail Safety and Standards Board. So we can, we haven't provided links in here, but we can do that subsequently for those who are interested, I'm sure. Well, there's lots of information on the RIA website. Okay. Slightly laggy delay on advancing slides. Right. So the relationships between these organizations, it's typically contractual. Okay. The whole basis of the contracts is it's intended not to delay passengers. You and me, as we travel, the whole system is designed to not delay us. And therefore, the penalties in those contracts are typically geared around causing delay. One thing you don't want to do is delay trains within the system and delay passengers. So the rules are, if you delay my train, then you have to pay me a penalty. And if you hold up my railway, then you have to pay me similarly. And in fact, those consequential payments go on as well. So if one train operator's trains cause a delay on the network, then what happens is that the delay payments roll on to those innocent parties who were delayed. One of the other things that happens is if you do maintenance work, and a lot of maintenance work, as we probably know, is done overnight, and your work overruns into the morning and trains are delayed, then you're liable for that to some extent. And that actually has quite an impact on the industry. It also means that changes, when we do them, have got to be reliable, so they've not got to cause problems and delays. And of course, they've got to be completely safe. We're very proud as an industry of our safety record, and it's really important to us that we deliver on that. So what do we do? You know, there's a tendency then to sit in our silos where it's very, very safe, or where it feels safe. So this is where we sit. You know, I'm about train operations, I'm about operating the stations, I'm about building and maintaining the network, and we're all trying to do our job well, but not cause delay to everybody else in the infrastructure. However, there is a way forward. The railway is becoming more digitalized. We're slowly, bit by bit, we're instrumenting some of the older assets on the railway. And new assets are procured with remote condition monitoring built in. Trains now have extensive monitoring systems and train management systems. So they generate an awful lot of data about everything that's in the train and everything it connects to. Some of the predictive stuff we're able to do around train failures is really, really excellent and stands up against any industry, I'd argue. And also, we are into the beginnings now of probably the largest digital conversion program for any infrastructure industry, which is digital railway. And that's the digitalization of the whole signaling system. So currently, it's a mixture of different technologies. It's going to move to just one particular specific digital technology. Now, all of this digitalization means that we're starting to produce ever larger volumes of data. And that moves more easily between the silos and around these contracts than other physical things possibly can. And that facilitates innovation if we have access to the right skills. And the right skills is what you're about, particularly for those listeners who've not worked in rail before and they're taking part today as part of the Leeds Digital Festival. If you've not worked in rail, there is a tremendous opportunity for you and your business in rail, and the rail is changing to come and meet you. So today we're going to look at working in rail for the first time. Tomorrow we're going to focus on better journeys for passengers, and Wednesday on freight. A bit of a Cinderella freight, often not seen much by the public. It's happening in the background. But today, right now, freight is delivering some of your groceries and goods. It's certainly servicing a lot of industry. It's moving things in bulk. And we're going to hear from a speaker actually on Wednesday who's going to tell us about moving bulk parcels by rail, which is a really exciting development. Thursday, for those of you who are into implementing mobility as a service, we're going to look at how that fits against rail. And we're joining with Connected Services Capital to do that. And on Friday, we're going to look specifically at Leeds. Don't forget, this event should have been in Leeds. So West Yorkshire Combined Authority is going to join us to talk about their plans for a better travel system, which includes light rail. Just a couple of notes now. First of all, you can download presentations from the handouts button on the right of your screen. They'll also be on riagb.org.uk later. Give it a few hours, or say tomorrow morning, and you'll get mailed a link to the video recording in 24 hours. And again, as I said earlier, there's a question and answer at the end of this. Go to the question tab in the grey box on the top right corner of your screen and click on the questions button to open the dialog box for questions. So I'm going to hand over to our first proper speaker, which is Karl Butler-Garnham, who's going to talk about Network Rail's research and development program. So thank you. Pass over to you.
Thank you very much, Richard, and thank you everyone for dialing in. Apologies we can't do this in person, but I'm hoping to give you a flavour for the level of opportunity that we've got in the railway industry in what we know as Control Period 6, which is now starting year 2 and runs to 2024. We have an opportunity in research and development and innovation, which is somewhat unprecedented in respect of previous control periods that we've had, and I'd just like to go through that with you and hopefully sow some seeds of inspirations that might make you want to go and get more information or engage with us in the program team. A bit of background about myself before I get into this. So I am Karl Butler-Garnham. I am one of the research and development program managers, specifically looking after research and development in the space of train control systems and also data and information. I am also chair of the Railway Industry Data and Information System Interface Committee, which meets regularly to look at how the railway industry can promote and innovate regarding data and information, working with partners that Richard has just mentioned, the likes of UKRRIN, but also RIA, the wider supply chain and other industries. So going into my presentation for you, I'd just like to start with how rail is perceived. So when we talk about rail, when we think about rail and research and development, it's often we forget that actually rail was born from one of the forefronts of innovations in our history. So you can see the image on the screen there. You know, mechanization of transport through power generated by steam is very much the first revolution in the rail industry, and that really started the journey, you know, in the late 1700s, early 1800s of where we are today. And then we entered the second rail revolution, which is traction power through the use of electricity for the first time, and using the things like overhead line and conductor rails to power trains, moving away from steam. But also at this time as well, we entered a phase of mass production in the railways. So we were creating rolling stock, we were creating rails, we were creating everything through factory processes. And that was very much the second revolution in the railway industry. And then the third, in the middle of the 20th century, we moved into electronics and IT-based systems and automation. And this included the move from semaphore signaling to electrical signaling and interlocking systems and having everything connected and the start, if you like, of early digitalisation. And really this was the railway industry, you know, trying to be faster, trying to be greener, adapting and using technology in this third revolution. And now we very much enter the fourth revolution. In this space, and as Richard has already mentioned, you know, we are utilizing specialist technologies to improve performance with more reliable assets. So we are, you know, looking at using lasers and things to inspect and reduce failures of the track under dynamic measurement, using dedicated measurement vehicles or in-service vehicles. We're managing our operations through regional control centres that are dotted around the country rather than small signal boxes. These are all interconnected. And then we're looking at using smart sensoring technologies to detect abnormalities on the network. And then finally, you know, in-driver systems of trains that are, you know, really pushing the forefront of automation, automatic train operation, for example, and really giving that power to drivers and the operators of the railway through the use of technology. So the challenge there, and the R&D portfolio that I work in is looking to try and take this further. And we have, as I said, an unprecedented opportunity. I've just got some numbers here for you. So as I mentioned, we're in control period 6, which started last April. So we're already a year in, but it ends in 2024, in March 2024. And for this control period, Network Rail has this in its research and development portfolio. We have 7 programs, which, as I said, is one. I'll come on to that in a second. We currently have 173 planned projects, which we've already started 101 of them. But here's the real opportunity. The port value is just over £350 million, of which Network Rail has direct funding of 245 from the DFT and the regulator. That is an incredible amount of money that we've not really had before in this space. It's a recognition that we need to do something different with the railway. We need to embrace this 4th revolution and do things differently. We can't just keep doing the same things. The network is getting busier, it's more congested, we want to run more services, we have less time to do maintenance, we have less opportunity to do maintenance. I would also like to bring in as well that this isn't just about research and development in the United Kingdom. We're also a founding funding member of the Shift to Rail European Research Initiative, which has a value of just under €1 billion. So we have access to all of that research that's going on in Europe. And I'm part of a delivery team of 33 people, which is growing. And we already have hundreds of partners that we work with, which most of which are RIA members. And we engage with RIA regularly, which is why I'm here. And we're not looking at 2 or 3 years with some of this stuff. We're looking sort of 20 years. This isn't creating better, faster spanners or hammers. This is about material changes to the way we do things in the rail industry for the better. And if I can give you some examples looking at the shape of the program. As I said before, we have the funding there. We have a number of goals as a company, Network Rail, but also as an industry. Sustainability of our assets is a problem. They're getting older. As I said, we have less time to maintain them. Network performance, although performance is good, it's not where it needs to be. In some cases, it's declining. Safety, we're all very much aware of the news last year of the loss of 2 Network Rail colleagues at Margam who were struck by a train. So clearly, safety is still not where it needs to be. Security of the network, cost efficiency to make it less costly to the taxpayer, and growth, because rail is in demand. And despite what's going on at the moment, before all of this happened, rail is in demand. So we have a number of goals which we're looking to try and meet through this opportunity of research and development with our partners, which, as we mentioned, already include UKRRIN, Shift to Rail. We work with the Connected Places Catapults. We're working with Innovate UK and the Manufacturing Technology Centre as well. And as I said, we have 7 programs. We've got the Shift to Rail program we've mentioned, and then within the Network Rail R&D portfolio, we have one that looks at specifically projects related to track maintenance of plant activity, have one that looks at the power, and that will be the sustainability of the power system and traction systems, but also its reliability as an asset class in its own right. I myself own the Future Communications and Train Control program, which I mentioned. I have one looking at our civils and our sustainability assets for a number of years. Track and has been prioritised quite rightly given accidents such as Ladbroke Grove, but now we're facing sustainability with some of our assets that are our mines and tunnels, etc., that are a number of years old, maybe even in some cases predate the railway. And so we have R&D that's looking at how do we inspect these assets remotely, and some of that is looking at things like the nuclear industry, where you can't physically get into places to have a look at them, just as an example of some of the things we're looking at. We also have projects looking at safety and security and how we can better operate the railway today. But we're also embracing innovation in a different way through a dedicated program around agile innovation, looking at using agile methods to get some quick wins, working with our route and region colleagues instead of doing the normal waterfall-based approach. And this is very much in this space of data and digitalizations, where we can do something with data and see what's happening, and then in 2-week iterative sprints improve things rather than waiting for the big bang solution. And in terms of the outputs of the program, whilst there's a lot of projects and a lot of activity going on, broadly speaking, the outputs are improved analytics, which obviously is underpinned by data and information flowing through the industry, detection and warning for fault finding, etc., and to make sure everything's safe, again underpinned by digitalisation of data and information flows. Pattern recognition, so using things like machine learning to look for patterns in our data and information and our survey results. Digitized inspections, so moving away from paper-based type materials, unstructured data forms that hold important information about our assets and their inspections. Training that utilizes data and information through virtual reality simulation, so you can do the training in a position of safety or more safety rather than putting people in harm's way. Integrating our data sets, because it's only when you integrate those data sets you really unlock the knowledge and information within. And then finally, our Target 190 Plus program, which is looking at how we can move to a signalling and control system that is largely virtual in terms of ship to shore based on European control methods, which again is underpinned by improved design tools, BIM, and the flow of data and information through a communications backbone. I also want to draw in as well how our portfolio is aligned to wider industry, because as I've said, this is a Network Rail research and development portfolio, but there are clearly other things going on in the rail industry, and I've drawn out a couple here, which is the industrial strategy, so working with BASE. We also have the rail sector deal, which is happening at the moment with its various different pillars, one of which is specifically around data and information. And then finally, the rail technical strategy, which is out there at the moment, but a refresh is coming soon. So I just wanted to also inform you that it is aligned to a wider industry view and pushing the wider industry forward. This isn't just about Network Rail doing R&D for its own goals. It's more about Network Rail doing R&D for the benefit of the passenger and freight customers, which we all are one of those. And I think my last slide I just wanted to show is, if I can go back, gone ahead, there we go. We have a brochure that you can find online. It's on the RIA website, you can download it, or if you just do a search for it, it's a search for RIA NR&D. It's our Pioneers Welcome brochure, which has a lot more information about our R&D portfolio and contact details stuff. And on the Network Rail website, I will apologise, the Network Rail website needs to refresh itself on R&D, but there are our challenge statements there, which are well worth a look if you want to understand some of the challenges that we have published around where we were looking for research and innovation ideas. And I think that is everything I wanted to say on that, so I shall be hanging around for the quick Q&A at the end of this session, but for now I shall hand back to Richard.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Karl. That's really, really useful overview, and I would endorse actually particularly people going to the Network Rail website, checking the search box for challenge statements, and on there you'll find not absolutely everything, things get added as time goes by, but it's a really good picture of some of the larger areas that Network Rail feels they need innovation actually. So, here we are, there's a challenge in the industry. Karl's told us about one of the big programs, fully funded programs, which is out there to help you get involved with the industry. There's real things to do and there's real funding to do them with. Now we're going to hear from 3 businesses that are actually making great progress in rail and building their business up with a variety of different approaches. The important thing is that they're actually building a business here. And they're going to talk about what they're doing and hopefully a little bit about some of the help they've had along the way. So the first of these is David, who's the Director of Engineering Integration Limited. So David, can you hear us now?
I can.
Great. Over to you then, David.
Hi there, everyone. My name is David Davey. I'm a Director of Engineering Integration Limited, or EI for short. From the outside, entering the rail industry would appear to be daunting, There are a lot of processes and procedures that exist and have been developed over the years. The vast majority exist for very good reason. The result of very hard lessons that have been learned, and they have sound logic, and there's nothing to fear with using them. But what EI can do as a business, we can navigate your business through these processes and procedures, so that they can be complied with, but also they can be challenged and improved. We would only focus on procedures that bring value and are necessary. So our experience in the industry is that there's a great willingness to avoid unhelpful process, and we've had a lot of success in achieving this, in particular with Network Rail, who are very keen to keep things very efficient. Within the industry, there are a lot of stakeholders to consult with and interfaces to manage. For example, between the signaling, the track, the civils, the telecoms, the electrification. And what is really essential is integration, and that's one of the fundamentals of our business is integrating systems. And how do we do this? Well, it's quite simple, really. We just engage, we meet, we talk, we challenge, and probably most importantly of all, we listen to the issues in order to manage them. We use technologies such as CAD and 3-dimensional modeling, which help. And our engineers are driven and led to take a pragmatic approach. That's very important. With the problems, we break them down into detailed elements, and we take control of the problem, and then develop sound solutions to the issues. We work for Network Rail, third-party clients, contractors, designers, property developers, and we're an integration partner. And in addition to our normal consultancy design work, we do innovation, and the current initiative we're really involved with now is a very light rail, which is something that's really exciting. So our aim is to work with an incoming business and be a trusted partner and a reliable partner, and make sure you can make a good profit for your business, and ultimately that's what business is all about. So EI itself, we are owned by engineers who all actively partake in the project, so you'll have a very informed views when you get involved in our organization. Our website is www.engineeringintegration.net, and so please have a look and get in touch. Hopefully just pop up on the screen in a second. So great, I look forward to hearing any questions that you may have in the question and answer session.
Hey, David, thank you very much indeed, and great to see you making progress there in rail. Now then, to a company which is really on topic for the stuff we're discussing this week, really around data, which is Open Train Times, and Peter Hicks. So, Peter, I'm going to hand over to you, chap.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Peter Hicks. I'm the director of Open Train Times. We started working in the industry nearly a decade ago by helping Network Rail open up their real-time train running data at a time when open data was very new as a concept to the industry. We built the Open Train Times website to showcase what you can do with real-time operational data, and it's used by thousands of people every day. As well as a public website, we also work with the rail industry and stakeholders on a wide range of products. We understand the railway data and processes, and we offer consultancy and software development services to help you get up to speed. On the more technical side, we provide operational testing and support services, including assistance in integrating with railway systems, something that can be very complex to a newcomer. We're experienced in software development and architecture, and we work on projects large and small, including prototypes and demonstrators to help you quickly test out your ideas. We have production-ready systems such as our multimodal schedule database and real-time data processing engines, We've done the groundwork and we can help build upon it quickly to help you meet your needs. We also provide railway-focused project management services if you need them. We've worked on many projects, large and small, and we pride ourselves on doing a thorough job. We've supplied subject matter expertise for Network Rail's whole citizens modelling programme over the course of a year. We injected domain knowledge and data expertise into a team of business analysts and provided context and expertise to help their work. We've also helped design and test a modern API for freight customers to interact with a legacy mainframe system via a mobile app. Our deep understanding of how the system works in the context of the railway proved invaluable. We've also worked with Network Rail Telecoms using open data to identify and reduce the number of cab radio registration failures, many of which cause delays. And we've also worked on several funded research projects, such as gathering and visualizing real-time passenger loading data for the Gatwick Express. We are a small, agile and experienced technology company experienced in the railway, and we can tell you what's possible and what pitfalls to look out for. We want you to benefit from our expertise too, so if we can help, please get in touch. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed, Peter. And I think one of the key points to bring out there is that sometimes when you come to the industry new, what can happen is that you lack knowledge of how the rail industry works and how things fit together and so on. And it can be really, really useful to work with companies like Peter's, who've got 10 years of experience and they know who to speak to and how things work. I think that's really important to think that it's not always necessarily just going to be your SME, you know, selling straight to Network Rail. It might be in certain areas, it's less likely in other areas. What really does work, and we've seen it work over and over again, is the right collaborations and partnerships to move things forward, if you want to move quickly anyway. Okay, someone I think, or at least a company now, I think that's worked for a little bit less time in Network Rail, One Big Circle, and to Emily Kent. So Emily, I'm going to hand over to you if I may.
Yes, indeed. Hopefully you can see me. Hi, great. Thank you, Richard. Yes, hi, my name's Emily and I'm from One Big Circle, a company that was founded in 2017. Hopefully the slide will change in a moment. I'm just trying to get the lag timing right. Okay, and as Richard said, we have been involved in rail for much less time than the previous speakers. There we go. Okay, so as I say, we were founded in 2017, and we did kind of a number of sort of technical projects, but our background was in CCTV and system design and installation, and what we started calling intelligent video. And we were looking for opportunities to take this video from the sports industry that we had previously worked in, and where else we could deploy it that would have really beneficial effects. We did quite a bit of market analysis on emergency services, local authorities, and it was really when we started digging into what could be achieved in the rail industry that we started to get some exciting traction. And I'm trying to remember which screen comes on next now, as we have the slight delay. But so we wanted to essentially bring intelligent video into a new industry. There's a quick slide here of some of the challenges that we know Network Rail and other operators in the industry are facing. What could we do that would help to overcome these? And essentially, we felt that the more you could see about these problems taking place, then the more you can overcome that. And I think you'll hear a lot of kind of layperson's language in how I talk, because this is how we came into the industry, and we were trying to sort of address it in very simple terms. So how could we help overcome these challenges with our intelligent video capability? And what we wanted to do was turn operational trains into something that could capture video data and enable that to be accessed rapidly. What we understood in the industry, that a lot of data could be collected that was quite often not able to be accessed by multiple people in the organisation. And obviously there's a number of challenges around that, but how could we overcome the technical challenge? Just try and get the next slide up. So So here we go. As I say, we wanted to harness the reach of the operational trains, help get video data to meet the network's challenges. And I think we've mentioned, and Karl certainly mentioned a while back about these challenges of trying to do remote condition monitoring, identify areas that need rapid response, reducing that boots on the ballast, very much increasing safety and how to get that data in front of the people that need to see it. We talked about how we could integrate with other systems that are already in place rather than piling systems on top of systems. So then we had a decision to make. We felt there was an industry that could benefit from what we did, but we needed to develop something that could prove that we were actually had something that people would want to talk to us about. We went to Rail Live in June last year, which for anyone interested in getting into rail is a great one to go along. You must take some orange PPE, which was my first mistake, and found you couldn't get in without that. But essentially, once we were in there, we could speak to loads of people with a real interest in innovation and solutions and challenges. And we heard from Network Rail that they were looking for SMEs with, I remember the words, it was skin in the game, people that had developed something that they felt could deliver on some of those challenges. So at that point, we decided to then invest a little bit more in what we were developing ourselves so that we could show that we had very much kind of got skin in the game and developed things ourselves. So we created this physical device, our Android device, which sits inside the windscreen of any operational train. We booked some time at Quinton on their test site so we could do that ourselves and get into cabs, which was something that we that wasn't possible as we were at the size. And as we were doing all this, we were starting to learn about different groups like RIA, like the Rail Innovation Group, different organisations that actually were perfect for us to talk to about ways that we could start to overcome these challenges and feel like there were a few more people on our team. So having been to Quinton and doing some tests, proving that we could collect video data from operational trains, we knocked on as many virtual doors as we could at Network Rail. I'm not saying this is a kind of, you know, there are other routes to do this, but this is what worked for us at the time as we were trying to learn about the industry. And we got ourselves a trial on the NMTs, which for those that are new to the rail industries, those are new measurement trains, otherwise known as the yellow bananas that race around the countryside collecting video data. And because we were deploying a product that we had essentially customized for our own development, we were able to get our AVA device into the cab. And hopefully the screen will change shortly. And the next shot should go, there we go, that's our device in the NMTs. They gave us a 3-week trial to head around the countryside collecting data. And the key thing about what we then did with that data is we transmitted that via 4G and made that available in the cloud. So at the same time as developing on the hardware side, we were developing the platform that would enable people to access this data rapidly, which we were aware is one of the big challenges in across the industry. And we'll go to the next slide, hopefully. I might just whiz through a few as we've got, I'm aware that my 3 minutes is probably ticking down. Okay, hopefully this will change shortly. So off the back of this, this successful trial with the NMT and the creation of the platform, we then started trying to find more people in the industry that we could explain about and show our developments to. And we started going to the events. Here we go. So this is the secure dashboard that we created. This was us. What we wanted to do is develop something that we could showcase to the industry, but also be very open and explain that any parts of this data could be integrated with other enterprise platforms. Parts of it could be so a bit as kind of previous speakers alluded to as well, like where could this integrate into systems rather than trying to be a new system on top of other things. But at the same time, we had to prove what it is that we could do. So this was very much our showcase. How could it integrate with other sensor data, etc. So I'm going to, again, go through some slides quickly. So engaging with groups such as RIA, such as the Rail Innovation Group, going to events, trying everything we could to get sort of opportunities to have a stand and have a screen there showing what we did, enabled us eventually, I say eventually, by sort of within 2 months, we had pitched at the Rail Innovation Group. Someone from Transport for Wales saw what we were doing and very much liked the capability. And we got invited along to their safety group to again, pitch what we were doing. That led to a successful trial where we went onto Network Rail for Transport for Wales for 3 weeks, prove what we could do, and by the end of last year we won a contract with Transport Wales to have our devices on board their some of their trains as they travel the network. And again, I'm probably not going to get to the end of my slides because they are going quite slow, but we wanted to respond to everything in a very agile way. Again, as one of the previous speakers alluded to there, we kind of developed different aspects as we worked with these new partners to show very much that we could take on board what their challenges were, adapt part of this, and give them some results. So here we go. We had a successful trial with Transport for Wales. We captured all their routes within 3 weeks, and that got us a 12-month contract with them, which we're developing a machine learning model for them as well. And that very much came out of collaborating as to what their challenges were. We've been deployed onto Network Rail routes. We have relationships with a number of these groups that we have had to learn about whilst we've been doing this. And we're also responding to COVID-19. So because we've spent a few months proving what we can do, we're now being asked to do route capture, help with driver training, and with remote access to data. We've got multiple integration projects now being discussed, and a lot of that is because we're very open and collaborative. And I think just to finish off, that's what I would say is really key about getting involved in the industry now: be open, be agile, and look for collaborations as well. Sorry if that's gone over time.
Right, thank you very much indeed, Emily. Yeah, okay, a little bit more than 3 minutes, but actually a whole lot of value there. For those companies that haven't worked in rail yet. I think what you've done is taken a very practical view and you've moved forward a step at a time. You've headed for trials very quickly to try and prove that your technology works in rail. And I think that's super, super important. There's very much of a kind of a show me mentality among rail engineers, I think. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much, as I kind of alluded to, like we felt we needed to have something that we could demonstrate, even if it wasn't going to be the end product. It was very important to kind of have proved out a bit of robustness rather than just coming with the theoretical.
Yeah, robustness and functionality as well, especially if you come forward with something that looks like incredibly good value for money. You've got to convince people it's not a toy, it's functional, that it's kind of railway tough, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I like the fact that you pointed out, I just made a quick note that about the cable theft delay, 3,267 minutes of delay amounted to a bill of £164,500. That's a good example really of the cost of delay in the network. In this case though, of course, it's a problem which causes delay and therefore there's a prize for fixing it. So that actually kind of works to the benefit, doesn't it? So folks, questions. We need your questions for our speakers there. They're all available now through till our finish time. Let's try and pick a good one here. Steve Roberts is asking Karl, how easy is it to become a Network Rail approved supplier if you're a micro company? Might be a leading question, Karl.
Possibly a leading question. I can only obviously talk about this from my end, which is trying to get a supplier onto the approved suppliers list, which from my perspective, it was around having some headed note paper with business particulars sent in and a request being submitted internally to add you to the Network Rail suppliers list. I believe it's called I can't remember, there's an acronym for it. I'd have to come back to you, Richard, on what the acronym is. I don't believe it's too onerous to get on the suppliers list at all in reality. There obviously will be some due diligence done on suppliers around creditworthiness, etc. But from my perspective, it's not been too hard to get a supplier once identified onto that list so that we can then enter into some arrangement contract with them. But I will come back to you on the acronym, Richard, for any follow-up to this on what that list is called, because it does have an acronym. It escapes me at the moment.
I think I just add on to that I think there is a temptation sometimes for small organizations to think that they're going to easily deal with a large organization, and it doesn't matter whether that's Network Rail or any other industry. You know, sometimes the better way to do it is to work with the right partners and to negotiate your way in that way. It's not always the straight A to B route isn't always necessarily the best route. Okay, what have we got here? Nigel Jones asks, he obviously works with or for an international company that doesn't have a base in the UK. How do you get involved? Well, again, I think, Karl, from a Network Rail perspective, I don't think you have a problem as a company dealing direct with international world-class organisations.
No, we deal with a lot of international organisations all of the time. I mean, we're a very large business, and in terms of the amount of contracts and money that flows out of our business, the sums of money are huge. So we don't have any problem dealing with international business at all. In fact, this morning I actually approved a purchase order to go out in euros, which caused us no end of problem. But just as an example, I've sent a purchase order out in euros this morning. So we can and do contract with international companies. Okay,
yeah, and I think Nigel also says, well, maybe one way is to establish a business in the UK. I think probably RIA's view is that would be a good thing. We do restrict our membership only to those businesses with a UK-based operation. So Colin Pigg asks Emily, how did One Big Circle overcome the problem of public sector procurement legislation?
Well, I think, as Karl alluded to, it was less challenging than we might have thought it had been, actually. So yeah, it's basically on board as a supplier have actually been surprisingly straightforward, and we have felt that any challenges that we have had, certainly from Network Rail point of view with the appointment of their sort of SME champion, that any issues that have been raised, we have felt that we have got a contact that is dedicated to trying to overcome those challenges with that, and I think a lot of the promotion about that has helped, has really helped in the circumstances. So again, we felt like operationally that's been kind of streamlined a bit, but also felt that there's a personal way of getting through these challenges as well. We feel like there's someone to talk to now, which maybe might not have been the case a couple of years ago.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a big help. David or Peter, do you have anything to add to that? Okay, so David, we can't hear you. You need to enable your microphone, please.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, sorry. I would say that again, when you say how difficult it is, it depends on where you're starting from. But from an engineering organisation, you used to go into a bit of detail. What we found it was very straightforward, echoing what Emily has said, and Network are a really good client. They're an informed client, and there's nothing to fear with coming into the industry, and the pay on time as well. They're very good payers, so that's very important as well. So
something that I think Network Rail is making a particularly strong effort on, increasingly in the last couple of years, but right at the moment it's completely on the ball. You can guarantee that one of the things we hear at RIA is complaints of every type, and the one complaint we're not hearing at the moment is about payments by Network Rail. So well done. If we did, we'd certainly follow it up. Okay, so Julian Heathcote asks how we're tapping into an innovation from the rest of the EU. They have the same problems as we do, and it might avoid reinventing the wheel. Anybody got experience of working on EU programs? I know you probably will have an appreciation, Karl, but Peter, do you know anything about it?
Yeah, so obviously we're a founding member of the Shift to Rail program, as I mentioned, which is part of the Horizon 2020 EU research and development initiative. So we're involved in that, and you're right. The European infrastructure managers like Network Rail have similar problems, particularly in the space that I'm working in, which is signalling systems. They are far too expensive and they need to be replaced, and you don't have the access, etc. So we are working together in a form of consortia through what's known as the EU Links Consortia, looking at ways how we can not only share resources but also share the burden of the problem and work our way through it. So I would say in that particular space, we are working with our European colleagues to try and solve some of these problems, because you're absolutely right. whilst there may be some GB related nuances to some of the solutions, fundamentally the problems are the same, which is how do you keep a system which has been in operation for nearly 200 years running in a 21st century digital economy.
Yeah, and indeed, Network Rail's been one of the biggest participants and contributors to the Shift to Rail programme, which is a carve-out within the Horizon 2020 investment programme. It might be of interest to people that whereas, in fact, Shift to Rail, the final call on that was supposedly due to finish tomorrow, close tomorrow. It's actually been extended by 6 weeks, which might just about be enough for people who are looking around for things to do at the moment, which are profitable and worthwhile, to look at pitching into the Shift to Rail programme. Go and Google Shift to Rail, and you'll get some information on that. If you're a RIA member, you'll be getting it in your Tech Talk newsletter tomorrow, actually, that new date. For programmes already in flight, they will go through to the finish. I think there's another 3 years of funding for programmes that are already funded. So that's, considering the situation with Europe, that's actually a pretty generous way of carrying on. Karl, an anonymous questioner asks us, who is the Network Rail SME Champion?
I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that question. They probably work in our contracts and procurement department, which is obviously very large, given the size of Network Rail. But again, I'll try and find out.
I mean, within R&D, it's going to be Rob Ford, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, he would be the sort of lead from the research and development portfolio perspective. But I think I pick up that Emily was referencing someone specifically aligned to SMEs within contracts and procurement, which is a completely different department. So so I'd need to find out that name, unless Emily knows the name herself.
Yeah, it's Ken Blackley from Network Rail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ken Blackley. Okay, right. Let's have a round the table topical question then, which is about Colin Pigg asks about COVID-19. It's clearly, we're in a situation at the moment where it's dramatically affecting the number of people using the railway, and probably quite a good thing too. But are people going to get used to remote working, and are they going to come back to the railway in droves in time? Karl, you gave us a picture earlier on of the railway growing really, you know, for the last 20 years, pretty much year on year. Even through the last recession, the railway ridership plateaued a little bit for a while, but it didn't actually shrink, and it's just gone on growing ever since. So let's start with Peter, shall we? Peter, do you think that ridership on rail is going to come back to its former high levels?
I think it will, definitely for leisure travel. What I've seen is a lot of businesses that have the capability to work from home are working from home quite easily. I work from home or wherever all the time. Long-term sustained, I think commuting will probably become more flexible. People won't all try to get into the office at the same time. Maybe people will work 3 days out of 5 in the office, 2 days a week at home. So we'll need flexibility for season tickets. But a lot of the problems that the railway have is caused by the high level of utilisation, the high number of passengers. So if we can spread those out over the day, I think we're going to end up with better performance over the railway. So we might even come back better, but with lower passenger numbers, but with an even more reliable service.
Okay, thank you. Karl, what's your opinion on this?
I tend to agree with Peter. I think you might see some modal changes in regards to people who work from home maybe continue to do so. But I think what we're dealing with here is not a natural progression. It's somewhat different. Leisure travel has always been increasing, particularly around the young. Let's not forget as well, rail travel is one of the lowest carbon emitters in terms of CO2 per kilometre. So I think that agenda after this COVID-19 situation has passed will rear its head again. You know, you just need to look at some of the pollution charts that show how much cleaner our air is at the moment. So clearly, to go back to filling that air with pollutants is going to be something that will be high on people's agenda. I think the other thing to remember as well is rail offers you that opportunity to travel from city centre to city centre, and despite everything that's going on, there will still be a need for that type of travel in future. So I think you'll see the type of travel change. I don't think you'll see the levels drop significantly.
Great, thank you, Karl. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with both the former speakers. One of the reasons our projects have been able to carry on throughout this crisis is because of the level of trust that you build with your colleagues. And a big part of that is physical interaction, but we don't have to do as much of it, as we probably would have used to do. But I feel that we're social animals. We want to be in front of the people, and even with integrating systems, you want to sit opposite the people you need to work with, your colleagues, so you really understand them. And in many of the many quizzes I've done in the last 3 weeks, one of the questions is how much of your communication is via your body language and how much is via verbal and oral, and the answer was quite surprising. There was lots and lots of physical communication. So I think, yeah, we're going to be back on the trends very soon, and I think that in the main it will only be a small change.
That's great. Emily?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree again with what everyone else has said of that, about the changes coming. I think another area of interest will be changes to the franchising model, and kind of what might fall out of the way things have evolved in the railway in the last few weeks, and the potential to integrate the experience and the process in a way that's even more passenger focused as well. So I think that there's an interesting areas that might evolve, as I say, from the franchising model.
Yeah, I think focusing on passengers as customers more and more has got to be the way to go. And that's what we're going to be discussing tomorrow, along with John Easton from Birmingham University. On Wednesday, we'll be looking at freight, new means of freight, and evolution within freight, and how we can use data to find new ways to fit freight trains in between passenger trains. Thursday, we'll be looking at mobility as a service. And on Friday, we'll be focusing sharply on Leeds, and West Yorkshire Combined Authority will be with us to look at evolutionary and revolutionary way transport for people there. So a couple of reminders: you can download the presentations now from the handouts tab. They'll also be available tomorrow or so through riagb.org.uk, open and free to download. You'll get a link to the video recording in 24 hours. And we look forward to working with some of you as delegates and parts of the event through the rest of the week. But once again, to our speakers, a big virtual round of applause. Thank you very much indeed. Great working with you today, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And to our delegates, we look forward to seeing you later in the week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard.
You're welcome.
Thank you.